All right, this is the introduction to the use of the YSI Yellow Springs Instruments MPS, that means Multi-Probe System 555. So we start by turning the instrument on, of course, and it goes through a test procedure, and then you see the display. And just quickly, the display has at the top temperature, then conductivity, which now reads 0 because the probe is in air, salinity, which now reads 0, and then dissolved oxygen percent saturation and dissolved oxygen concentration. That's coming down. The numbers are changing rapidly now because I just turned the instrument on. But we'll be interested in the top 3 numbers, not the oxygen. That comes in another lab. Okay. Now, to calibrate this instrument for conductivity salinity, you go to the probe, and this is the probe, and this plastic thing here is the calibration chamber. And you start by unscrewing this calibration chamber and just setting it aside. And now you see that you have a black probe, and that's the conductivity sensor. The little silver probe on the end is temperature, and then the yellow probe is oxygen. Okay? The black probe has a hole in the side of it, and I don't know if you can see it from in the video, but you certainly can when you look at it. It has a big hole in the side of it, and then it has a hole in the bottom. And inside that, in the channel there, are where the electrodes are that sense the conductivity. Okay? So the first thing you do is you come in and you will find the probes in air. The conductivity chamber should be empty, except for just a little bit of water to keep the oxygen probe hydrated. And so the first thing you do is dump out any water that may be in there, and then you take some of your standard seawater. And this over here, can you see it? See that? These are containers of standard seawater, which is the conductivity standard, which you buy from Ocean Systems International in England to use for a conductivity standard. This bottle lost the label, and so we put another label on. But I have some of that water here in this beaker, and I will put just a little bit in because this is expensive again. And you roll this around, and then you put it back on the mounting here. Please be careful to not cross-screw it, cross-thread it. I may have done it right there, but you screw that on. And then it's a good idea to just take this thing off, unscrew the ring stand clamp, and hold this thing like this, and swish this around like this, rotate it, and what you're doing is you're washing off the probes, you're rinsing the probes. Okay? Now, if you were doing this for real, you know, for your thesis or to make money or something like that, you'd probably want to dump this water out, put a little bit more in, rinse it again. But I'm just going to do this once just for this illustration. Then you put it back in this clamp. That's just to hold it. Clamp it on the black part as I'm doing. Take this off. Dump it out just into the waste. It may actually be easier to do this by the sink, but I'm doing it here because it's more light. Then you take some more of your standard seawater and fill this container up about to the bottom of that label. See the silver label here? Okay. Put it back on the instrument. Now, obviously, you're going to submerge the probes, and you hopefully get it screwed back on there. Okay, just for heaven's sakes, don't cross-thread it or over-tighten it. Then it's not a bad idea again to take this off just briefly and make sure there's no bubble in there. Just kind of shake it. Okay, then mount it back up here again. And now we're ready to focus on the instrument. So here we have, now we see the instrument says 49.63, and the number is changing. And that is millisiemens per centimeter. That number right there, the second one, is the conductivity. And then the third one is salinity. Okay, now to calibrate it, you push the escape key to go to the main menu. See, it says main menu right there. Can you see this? Okay, and you use the down arrow key 1, 2, 3 clicks until it indicates calibrate, and then you hit return just like a computer. And now you have two choices, conductivity and DO. That means dissolved oxygen. We're calibrating it for conductivity, so you just hit return again. Now you have three choices, specific conductance, conductivity, and salinity. Now we're going with specific conductance. So you hit return again, and now you see a number that says 53.07, okay? And that number, if the number doesn't say 53.07, then use the keypad to make it say that number. If it does say it, then just go ahead and push return. And now you're on the calibration screen, and you can barely see right there it says calibrate. And now you basically just watch it until the conductivity and salinity numbers remain stable for a few seconds. I'll just count to 10 maybe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And the salinity didn't change. It says 35.07. Hit return. Now it says continue. Hit return again. And then you can escape back to the start screen. And now you have it calibrated. Now it says 35.06 salinity. Okay? Now that's very close. The salinity of the standard seawater should be 35.0. For this illustration, I used some used conductivity standard, again to save money. But this should be very close to 35. All right, so it is. So now we go back to the probe, and we take the conductivity chamber off, and we go over here and we get the used conductivity standard bottle and just pour this back into the used conductivity standard. Now again, when you do it, you would use seawater from the unused conductivity standard. Okay? All right, then you take your natural seawater. Now this is just natural seawater that I got out of the basin some time ago. You would get it from a bucket, but you'd pour it from a bucket into a beaker like this, and you pour. Okay, now it's not a bad idea to take your paper towel or something and just kind of blot the main big drops off of this, and then you just take your natural seawater from the boat basin with a spin bar in it, and you lower the whole thing down until you're immersing that black probe and the yellow probe, and make sure the hole in the side of the black probe is under the surface, but also make sure that the probe isn't hitting the spin bar. Then you turn the spin bar on just a little bit, just like that, and watch the display. And now you see the conductivity changing. It's going 49.21 to 2. 49.24, 49.25. Anyway, you watch that until you can count to 10 and the numbers don't change. I'm not referring to the bottom two numbers. You're not measuring oxygen at this point. But until the second and the third number stop changing, and then you record that number. So this looks like 49.25 millisiemens and 34.83 salinity. Okay, now you've made your measurement. Now it's basically cleanup. So now you raise this out of the water. Take the natural water off. Take a slop beaker and your DI squirter, and squirt some water into that hole. See that big hole in the side? And on the yellow probe, bottom of the yellow probe, in that hole, all around. Now it doesn't hurt also, when you're really doing it, you take that off and wash it off under the sink. And then squirt it off with distilled water, and take your conductivity chamber, put a little bit of deionized water in there and dump it just to rinse the seawater out. Then put just a little bit of deionized water in the bottom, just like that, just that much. Take the beaker off, put the conductivity chamber back on, just a little snug, don't, you know, like that, and turn the instrument off unless somebody else is waiting to use it. And now that's done, okay? Now what you do from here, I don't like to leave this instrument in the lab, and so there'll be instructions about either putting this in a drawer and locking the lab room, or possibly Abby will pick this up. That is yet to be worked out. But basically that's the use of the conductivity sensor on this instrument.